Hello, teachers, and welcome to the Music Teacher Mastermind Podcast. My name is Jaclyn Mrozek. You can call me Jackie, and I will be your facilitator. Today's episode is super special for two big reasons. First, this marks the final episode under our current name because next week we are rebranding to the Scrappy Piano Teacher Podcast in celebration of our 1-year anniversary. I've got so much to share about that. But for now, let's dig into today's episode because it's one I've really been looking forward to. If you teach online, or if you've ever thought about teaching online, you're going to love this conversation. But wait, you also are going to love it if you only teach in person. I am going to be joined by Sam Reti, a professional guitarist, experienced instructor, and the founder and CEO of Muzie.live, which is a platform designed specifically for music teachers who want to teach online, hybrid, or even in person. Now, here's the thing. This isn't just for online teaching. Sam's going to share how Muzie.live is just as powerful for in-person teachers, especially when it comes to creating systems that make your lessons run more smoothly. It helps students stay engaged and takes some of the admin burden off your plate as far as helping them practice at home. It's very powerful. I'm really excited for you to hear about this. Whether it's organizing materials, recording lessons, or setting up a solid structure for student practice, this platform is built to support you in all of it. With over 15 years of experience in music performance and education, Sam has worked directly with more than 1,500 teachers and studios to help them streamline their workflows and boost retention by using tech that's actually designed for us. So whether you're already teaching online, fully in person, or somewhere in between, that's something in today's conversation that can bring much more ease into your studio. So with that, let's get started. Hello and welcome, teachers, to the Music Teacher Mastermind Podcast. My name is Jaclyn Mrozek, but you can call me Jackie, and I will be your facilitator today. With me for this final episode under the Music Teacher Mastermind Podcast name is someone I've been wanting to chat with for a while, especially because I've been using his platform for the past 6 months, and I have really been loving it, and so have my students. And that guest is Sam Reti, founder and CEO of Muzie.live. Sam, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I would love to hear just about you, your background, and how it started.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if we zoom way back, I grew up in a pretty musical household. So my dad was a professional drummer back in the 80s. So we had a drum set in the basement, but I didn't actually get into music until kind of late. I was probably like 13 or 14 when I got my first guitar. After that, though, I was addicted. So I was playing pretty much every day, couple hours a day. And my dad worked from home at the time. So I would come home from school and then we would play together for an hour or two every day after school. So I had like a built-in sort of like band, right there, kind of right from the beginning. And I started doing recordings and playing with my dad and playing in bands at like high school and things like that, and recording friends and stuff. So by the time I was looking at colleges, I was pretty set on going to Berklee for the Berklee School of Music. So I applied there and I pretty much only applied there. My mom applied for me to other colleges because I was so stubborn that I was like, this is what I'm doing. So I went to Berklee and I tried to do the whole play in a band and tour and, all that stuff. And I did that for a couple of years, but kind of like any college band, that sort of fell apart. And I was looking for something else to do. So I actually took a semester off of school and was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. I came up with this idea for a practice app for college students because there was sort of so much stuff that you had to keep track of. Well, so I started designing this app that allowed you to put all of your classes and all the assignments and things into one app, and it would build practice routines for you based on what you needed to achieve. At the time, Berklee actually was just rolling out a class called the Startup Lab, and it was in a combined class with MIT and Berklee. They're physically like right across the road from each other. We used to meet up at this design studio in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And it was one teacher from MIT, one teacher from Berklee. And the idea was to try to take ideas and actually turn them into something. And the reason I mentioned the playing and jamming with my dad in the early days is he went on to be a software engineer after being a professional drummer. So I brought this idea to him as I was like, "Hey, does this make sense? Like, could we build a practice app that works like this?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's pretty cool. I could build you a little prototype that will probably only take like a week or two, and then you can kind of use that to see if the idea makes any sense." So we did that, and it kind of took off, and Berkeley actually became the first users of the platform. So I was able to kind of like flip it back on its head. And so when I graduated, we actually incorporated as a company. For the next 4 years, we worked on, it was called I Want to Practice. And so we worked on that for about 4 years. It didn't quite take off any more than, than what it had in the beginning. So it sort of just trickled along. And after a few years, we decided to shut that down. We actually started working on an app that it was like flashcards, and you would play a chord, a scale, or an arpeggio, and it would listen to you play and give you feedback on your performance, like through the microphone, kind of analyzing what you played. That actually never got released. We just kind of worked on it and decided it just wasn't quite good enough yet. From there, we came up with the idea for Muzie. And Muzie was actually going to be a marketplace. And the idea was basically, for lack of a better description, is Uber for music teachers. And the idea there is that teachers could be logged into the platform between their regular lessons, and then we would acquire students, and students could take lessons on demand. So instead of like a traditional marketplace, right, where you go in, find a teacher, schedule a lesson, and then meet with them like a week later, our idea was that you went on the platform, clicked connect to teacher, and then it literally connected you right then and there to a teacher. So the idea was going to be that teachers could get paid kind of in between their regular sessions, and students could have on-demand access to any teacher that they sort of wanted. And then every single teacher that was on the platform was like, "Hey, this is cool, but we really need to be able to teach our own students." So within like the second or third week of launching the product, we shifted it around. So instead of acquiring new students, you just brought your students onto the platform and hosted your own lessons. And that's essentially what Muzie sort of is today. And it obviously we've added tons of stuff to that as we've gone, but that's sort of how that all happened.
All right. So hold on. Can we back up to you and your dad real quick? Because I love this. I love the fact that you guys jammed together, that you worked together after you got older. And I'm intrigued that he was working at home. So is he a software engineer at home?
Yeah, so he jumped the gun on the work at home thing by like 20 years. He basically worked from home my whole life. His career was mostly building software companies and then selling them off and then doing it again, essentially. So there would be like periods of time where he would sell his business to somebody else and they'd need him to come into the office a few days a week. But he was very like strict about like, I'm not coming in 5 days a week. You're not getting me to go to the office every day. Then it kind of naturally progressed for us to like think about, well, we are so used to working at home. The pandemic had almost no impact in that sense from our perspective because we were already working at home anyway. Building out these tools to sort of help other people work at home made sense because we kind of had a lot of experience with that ahead of the game.
I love that. I love how your experience growing up and then your experience going to school and trying to create this app and the relationship with your dad and then the MIT and the Berkeley, like it all has just kind of culminated and come together. I want to talk about how it's different from Zoom and Skype because I've tried all of them. I am not a mainly online teacher, just kind of FYI. I do it so I'm in Cincinnati. So we always have a week or two of inclement weather during the winter. And then, lessons go online. But I have one student in particular. She's in a wheelchair. She has special needs. And it was a rough winter for us. And we've pretty much just been online that whole time. And I saw something about Muzie.live over the summer in a piano teacher Facebook group. And I thought, I cannot deal with the Zoom stuff anymore. And so I tried it out and I was like, it was like this whole new world, like sunshine and rainbows and the heavens opened up because I didn't have to deal with the settings. I mean, the sound quality was great. I love the keyboard at the bottom because the girl is special needs. The mom has to sit in. The poor mom knows nothing about music. So it's made everything so much easier for me to teach. And do everything. So I really would love to highlight the differences. I mean, like I want to convince teachers right now listening that they should never do Zoom ever again.
We're the only one that actually built the audio video software from scratch. All of the others are just taking third-party products and relabeling them. So we're the only one that actually built the entire tech stack from scratch, and it's our own technology from top to bottom. We don't rely on anybody else for the back end infrastructure, which means that we have full control over how the audio works, how the videos connect, how all the tools integrate with each other. And that gives us a big advantage because for us, obviously, audio is the most important thing when you're trying to do an online lesson. So we basically, from the beginning, had music in mind while we were trying to design this system. Where a lot of the other platforms, you're just taking what they've got and calling it music mode or something. And really all you're doing there is just turning off noise suppression. What we've done is actually tailored the whole thing so that it fits music instruments. So when you play a piano, the lowest note and the highest note can be heard. Or we have teachers that teach whistling and bagpipes and I mean like really kind of niche instruments, but also kind of cool because they really test parameters of what we're capable of kind of producing and being able to take on Muzie, which is really cool. So audio is the most important thing, and we prioritize that over everything. What we've done over the years is sort of built Muzie into a toolkit. So as you mentioned, like we have a MIDI piano on screen. You can plug your keyboard into your computer. Anything you play will light up the notes on screen, and it
I didn't know that.
synchronizes immediately with the student. So, like,
Wow.
it's a lot of teachers will have like overhead cameras, which you can do that too. We have multiple cameras and stuff like that. But it's kind of cool that you can just play your instrument and it lights up right there, for the student. And the student can do the same. And then that sort of toolkit idea is where we separate. Like we have a file sharing system. It's unlimited files. So you don't have to worry about running out of data or anything. And then you just share the resource with your student. And as soon as you open that document, it opens automatically on the student screen. You don't have to have your students wasting time trying to navigate through the platform. They can just spend their time focusing on the instrument. And when they look up, the sheet music is right there on the screen for them. And then everything that you create or share with the student is available to that student when they're at home. So the software kind of doubles as a practice app as well. Jumping back to the original product we built was we sort of took a bunch of that stuff and put it in Muzie. So when your students are at home, they can log in and they can look at their assignments, they can watch videos, they can chat with you, they can see all of the content that you've created and shared with them. And there's also leaderboards and practice tools and recording and things like that. So they can interact with that material when they're at home so that when they get back to class, you can kind of see what they've been working on while they were away. And then we have a few cool features, like we have an AI that takes notes while you teach and it writes assignments as you're going. So it will listen to you basically teach your lesson. It will write everything down. And then at the end of the class, it will create an assignment for you based on what you talked about in the lesson. That's trained specifically for music. So it understands the context of things that you're talking about in like musical vernacular and vocabulary and things like that. Like it's aware that music is what it's focused on. The whiteboard, which is preloaded with music notation and music templates. So you don't have to try to draw a treble clef using your mouse. Like we've got that kind of preloaded for you. So that stuff just kind of speeds up the whole process of doing the lesson itself. And Clips is essentially an audio video recording tool, but the way we designed it was to sort of fix the problem of being able to play a duet. So the idea is that you can go in, hit record, play your part of the track for the student. So you play your half. It will then immediately share that recording over to the student side. The student then just hits play and they play along with your video right there in the lesson. And there's no latency because the audio is coming from the same source. So that way you can actually sit back and hear your student playing with you. And the student can actually even choose to record. And so you can make layered recordings. So like a lot of our vocal coaches will do like 4-part harmonies. So I'll sing part 1, then you sing part 2, then I'll sing part 3, then you sing part 4. And all 4 of those recordings are stacked together. So when you hit play, they all play back at the same time. And we even have like orchestras and big ensembles that can do like performances. even though you could probably find these tools individually elsewhere, we've tried to take those features, build them into one, and then align them with how you would use them in a music setting. So that's a big thing about what makes Muzie different. And then the biggest sort of differentiator is that we now support in-person lessons. So with Muzie, you can open up the platform when you're in person and you can still access the AI. You can still create notes and assignments. You can still make recordings. Your student will have all that material at home when they go back. So it kind of bridges the gap between the online and in person. So when the students are sick or it does snow or whatever it might be, they'll probably be already used to the platform because they're using it as a practice app, even though they're in person. And then when they're online, they just log in and jump into the classroom. So everything that they do for their lessons is already there, ready to go. So there's continuity is a big sort of part of Muzie, where like Zoom and a lot of other platforms, at the end of the call, all the stuff just disappears. We try to kind of go the opposite of that. So that's sort of what makes us different.
Again, being mainly an in-person piano teacher, I do groups and I do one-on-one lessons. And so it was really tricky for me this winter. Suddenly I have group lessons. Well, I'm not going to be doing an online group lesson, which maybe you could with Muzie. Okay, so we should talk about that. But I'm thinking asynchronous. Pretty much what I would do is I would do an individual recorded lesson of myself. So what I would do is I would record it on Zoom. And it would just be me and I would do screen share and then I would upload it to a private link on YouTube and then I'd share it with a student and thought that I had this magical formula. But the more and more you're talking about this, I'm like, that would make things so much easier for asynchronous lessons, in-person lessons. So right now we are prepping for recitals and we have lots of ensembles and it has been kind of a pain in my tush because I have been having to record all of these ensemble parts for students to practice with at home. And it's taken so much time. By what I'm listening to, I could actually just record a lesson and then the students have all the access they need to practice with it at home by using the clips feature.
We have teachers who've created courses on the platform. And because what they'll do is they'll record a bunch of videos, attach a bunch of PDFs and resources, put all of that into an assignment. And then if you have like a course offering, you can use that to like share the modules with the people that need them. So asynchronous lessons work. You can literally record the lesson or record a clip. And then you have the tools so you can record the clip. And then again, you could put that clip in an assignment with a bunch of instructions that are like written instructions. And then you can attach any resources that are relevant to that lesson. And then you send that off to the student. They'll see the instructions, they'll see the resources, they'll see the recordings. So they have everything sort of bundled together in one spot.
Well, that would be great asynchronous lessons to have on hand for if a teacher is sick, they have the option to just be like, this is your assignment for the week. And they already have it set aside because there's always general things that we teach, like you said, no matter what the level, there's always stuff to do.
Yeah, and my personal policy is no makeups. So for me, no makeup lessons, you just get a recording, you get the video, you take the video. If you don't watch it, okay, whatever, we just pick up from there next week. But we hope that you do watch it and then we can kind of continue from where we left off. And the cool thing too is you can actually see on the assignments, like how much time the student spent working on the assignment and things like that. So you kind of have a little bit of insight. So at one glance, you can see whether or not they've even opened it. So you know kind of where you're going to be picking up from in the next lesson. It probably in like late 2021, we started building the in-person features so that as people were transitioning back, they didn't really need to just like dump the platform because they're not doing online lessons anymore. Most of our teachers kind of went to a model that you're doing where it's like, I do a few online lessons, but I do a lot of in-person. And then sometimes I'm doing totally online just because of a circumstance. And so that flexibility of being able to bounce around and it doesn't go through a whole setup process every time you need to change your format. The format isn't actually that important. It's like if it's in person, if it's online, if it's groups, if it's recitals, doesn't make a difference. It's just you have one platform that facilitates all of that.
You can do online recitals too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
We also have
So
live
many things.
streaming too. So like you can live stream. This is a newer thing, but it's kind of cool. So you can like have your students in the classroom for the recital and then the audience is like part of a live stream. So you can basically have a link and send that link to anybody who wants to join the live stream, and they're just in the audience. So you just have the students sort of go on stage and perform for the audience, and then they can like write in the chat and things like that.
So you'd separate them out.
Yeah.
You Oh, that's so cool. So you
Yeah.
don't have like all these
Yeah,
faces.
we tried. We used to do the everybody in one room and it was so chaotic. So the live streaming seems to work a lot better. You do lose a little bit of interaction, like you don't get like a live round of applause or anything, but you can see the chat. So like people are like, doing like the little applause emoji in the chat for you. But it
Yeah.
keeps it so that anyone can join the audience. Well, anyone you like share the link with, like it's not public. But the idea is like grandma, grandpa, uncles, aunts, friends, they can all join in and they don't need to do anything other than just click a link.
Okay, so let's say I have a recital coming up, and let's say that I want to go ahead and live stream that, even though it's at a facility and it's a traditional recital, I can live stream it for families.
Yeah, you would literally just set up a camera somewhere. And you could do that in a million different ways. You could just stick an iPad on a stand and just point it at the stage is probably the simplest. And then you just turn on live streaming, give out the link to anyone that wants to view externally, and they could just go in and watch it from there.
I've never even attempted a group lesson online. I know some teachers who have been successful, but I would love for you to walk me through how you would teach a group lesson on Muzi.
So we have two features in Muzi that are specific for group lessons that make it way easier. Teachers really liked breakout rooms from Zoom. I don't love the concept of breakout rooms because you're putting a student in like a different room, either by themselves or with another student. And that's, to me, I try to think of all of this as like, how would I do this in person? And how do I duplicate that online, right? So if I'm in a classroom working with kids, I'm probably not going to like kick two kids out into the hallway to go work by themselves. I'll probably just like physically be like, all right, you two work together, and I'm going to work with this student. So with Muzi, we do something called breakout audio. And the idea there is that if I want to talk privately with you, but this is a group call, I can turn on this feature and then select you, and only you can hear me talking. So you and I can have a private conversation while everybody else just continues doing what they're doing. That's really nice because I literally try to think of this as how would I teach in a real class? I'll probably do something that's general for the whole class. And then I'll probably kind of go around the room and check in on each person and make sure that they're understanding the topic or the assignment and help them sort of as we need to. So I can use that feature to walk around the room essentially. And so that's really useful. And then we have another feature that's public and private content. So the whiteboard's a really good example of this. So the whiteboard is, a digital whiteboard. If we make a public whiteboard, everybody in the room can see that whiteboard and they can edit it. So if I draw something on the board, everyone else can see that and everyone can add their own things to the board. If we're doing sort of like a generic topic for the class, that's perfect. I can put like a staff on there. I can put some notes. Each person can be like a different colored pencil and they can kind of follow along and we can all see what everyone else is doing. But there's scenarios where I kind of want each student to work on their own thing. So I might give out a worksheet and I want them to each fill out that worksheet. So we have private whiteboards. And so if you turn on the private whiteboard, then each student's board is sort of their own thing. Anything that they write on that board's not seen by the other students. So again, when you combine these two features of talking privately with someone and using private content, I can essentially like walk over to a student, help them with their worksheet while talking to them. And then I can go to the next student. I can select their worksheet. I can talk to them and help them on their worksheet while the other kids continue kind of on their own. We really try to mimic what would you do in a real classroom and how can you do that in a group. Basically take that exact same skill set and just put it online. Because one of the big things in the early days was sort of what you're saying is like, people think of online as like this massively different environment of like, how am I going to control a group? How am I going to communicate? How am I going to get everyone to work together and things like that? So we try our best to let the tools sort of facilitate some of that stuff. We even have hybrid group lessons. Well, a couple of teachers, especially during the pandemic, but I know a few that have kept doing this. They put a big TV on the wall, connect Muzi to the TV. They'll have 5 or 6 kids in the classroom and they'll have 5 or 6 kids on the TV screen at the same time. from the student point of view, it doesn't matter anymore if they're away or it snows or they can't make it or they're sick. They just log in and do the online portion. But if they can make it to class, great. Then you do the in-person stuff. And the way Muzi's designed is both cohorts will get all of the digital content in their account automatically. So if you're in person, you'll still get digital copies of all of the recordings, the files, anything that's shared, and kind of vice versa. So yeah, we try to kind of break down that barrier of what it's like to teach online versus in person and everything.
Let me ask you this. If listeners are thinking, oh, I really want to try this, I don't know if I want to invest the money, you can try it for free. I mean, it's limited
Everybody who signs up gets a 2-week free trial of the pro
with
account
all the fun features that you're
with
talking about.
everything. Yep. So
Cool.
you get to try everything for 2 weeks. Then after you can choose free or pro. So if you go down to the free account, basically the tools are removed. So you still have the ability to do one-on-one lessons, kind of like what we're doing right now. Like you join a call, you see the other person, you have a chat box, and you communicate back and forth with them that way. So you just don't have access to like the files, the clips, the whiteboards, the assignments, all of those resources. But you can still facilitate lessons. And we don't cap you on the time. Like we don't stop you at 40 minutes or something. So we're not gonna, we're not kind of penny pinching you in that sense for the free account. But then on the pro account, you have all the files, all the games, all the worksheets, all the activities, all the tools.
So if you actually do want to try it out, make sure you time it right so you can utilize those 2 weeks of really using the features.
We've had teachers that like sign up and then get sick or something. So like it's no big deal if you need us to reset the trial or something if you've never got a chance to use it. We're pretty flexible about stuff. We're a family owned company. So, it's me and my dad that run the business together. So like when you talk to the people at the company, you're usually talking to one of us. Like,
Awesome.
it's pretty much direct to the top. And so you don't have to deal with a whole bunch of, corporate nonsense. It's
An
just,
AI
yeah,
thing.
yeah. If you go
Yeah,
on
I
our,
just love that when I have
yeah,
problems and I have a robot is the only thing that'll talk to me. So yeah,
yeah,
I love that. Okay, so if listeners want to explore Muzie.live,
yep.
do they just type in
Yeah,
Muzie.live
that's
or?
literally that's it. It's kinda cool. Instead of .com, it's just .live. So Muzie.live is the whole thing, and that takes you right to the site. And then, like you said, if you use the chat support, you'll actually talk to us. So if you have a question, you can just ask us and we'll be on there.
And then you mentioned a Facebook group. Is there a public Facebook group or is it like a closed Facebook group?
It's like you do have to ask to come in, but we, if you're a teacher, we just let you in. It's just Muzi teachers. You don't actually have to be signed up or anything. It's just like a forum for people to share ideas and ask questions and kind of piggyback off of each other.
So, okay, this is great. Well, thank you so much. I'm really grateful that you gave your time to spend on there to share with all of us. And I look forward to really great things coming from you and your dad. So make sure you tell him thank you.
Definitely. And thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, teachers, so much for joining me today as Sam shared the ins and outs of Muzie.live. Whether you're teaching online, in person, or a mix of both, I hope that this episode sparks some ideas and give you a little boost in your teaching toolbox. And to all of you listening, this wraps up the final episode of the Music Teacher Mastermind Podcast. It's been such an incredible year. I have learned so much from so many amazing teachers and from all of you listeners. And I'm so grateful for each and every one of you that's tuned in, that's shared episode, and joined the conversation. Next week, we officially relaunch as the Scrappy Piano Teacher Podcast, and I cannot wait to welcome you into this next season of creative, resilient, real talk support for music teachers just like you. If you loved today's episode, I'd be ever so grateful if you'd leave a quick 5-star review. It really helps new listeners find the show, and don't forget to check the show notes for important links, resources, and updates. Until next time, keep teaching, keep practicing, and keep loving what you're doing. See you next week for a big rebrand launch. Bye, guys.